Right, yo, so hello and welcome everybody. What is going on? So I know that I've not continued the series, the top 15 players that I want us to sign. I've not continued that for like a good 2 weeks. So I decided I'm going to do a double special this week. I guess you could say a triple special this week. I'm going to do one video today, one video tomorrow, and one video on Sunday, Saturday. I'm also going to do like much more transfer rumors, just because obviously now that the transfer window is, I guess you could say, officially opened, there is actually a point of making these transfer rumors video just based on also individual players, as well as obviously the big transfer rumors that say we already got this player, we don't have this player. So yeah. But let's talk about the first player, which is player number 3 on the series. Obviously the 2 previous ones, you can check them out in the playlist or in the video, whatever. But this player, out of all players, is probably the player that I personally want the most. It's probably the player that I think would make the most sense, but it's also probably the player that I think is the most unrealistic, just because of the price tag and just because of the hype that he's got right now, which means that we would probably already be outpriced essentially. So that player, ladies and gentlemen, is a player that we were linked with right at the beginning of the season. I even made a video about that, like right at the beginning of the season, and yeah. That was when he was still fairly unknown, and since then his career is basically just like spiked. Now he's a new golden kid, he's a new wonder boy, and he is most likely off to Real Madrid. Not considering that he already had a trial there when he was very young, so you know, that's just the way it is. But I think most of you guys can already guess who I'm talking about. Most of you guys could probably already guess who I am describing. It is none other than Kylian Mbappe, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it is, and as always, I'll show you his stats. I mean, most of you guys, I'm sure, are fairly familiar with him. Now, the thing about him is that he's not just very good. He's not just very skillful. He's also a very good finisher. He's all round really good, and that's why he can play in the three positions, as in centre forward, right wing, and left wing. I personally prefer him on the left wing. I do think that that's probably his best position, but who am I to judge? You know, who am I to judge in all honesty? So yeah, let's look at his stats. So he has had 44 games, and he scored 26 goals and 14 assists. 26 goals and 14 assists. For a man that is 18 years old, I feel kind of old now. I'm 21 and I feel old right now. Looking at that, looking at those stats, you can obviously tell that he's a very clinical, a very driven, and very balanced. I'd say a very balanced attacker. Obviously, 26 goals, which obviously show that he is clinical, and 14 assists, which obviously show that. You know, he's not just all about goals. Now, of course, he plays in a team that score goals for fun. Essentially, Monaco, they had an average of 3 goals per game. I don't know whether they still have that, but that in and of itself is just amazing. And then he is a large part of that. He's a large reason why they have an average so high of 3 goals per game. And you know, they've won the League One. And he is a large reason for that. Now, 26, essentially, if you look at these numbers, right, you get to 40. He's played 44 matches. You get to, in of itself, he has assisted or contributed to 40 goals in 44 matches. Now, some of you guys may say, oh, you know, it's League One. And I'm saying, you know what? You're underestimating League One a lot. It's a very good league. But even if you make that argument, right, you could look at the Champions League. 9 matches in the Champions League. It's not like he played against baby teams. Those 9 matches came against big, established teams, you know? And he scored 6 goals in there. He is a striker, a clinical. Even if you look at just the stats here, right? Group stages, he hardly played, either through injury, on the bench, or not in the squad. He hardly played, as you can tell. 30 minutes here, 7 minutes there, 5 minutes there. Then come around the knockout stages. 1 goal versus Manchester City, 1 goal versus Manchester City, 2 goals versus Dortmund, 1 goal versus Dortmund, 1 goal versus Juventus. You could just tell that this kid is special. This kid is special. Honestly, I really want him at Bayern. But quite likely, he is probably outpriced, because in all reality, he would likely cost at least 100 million plus. and that would be on a very good day. That will be on a day that Monaco is very generous, because the prices that are being dealt with, are being traded with nowadays. It's just unrealistic for us, unless we actually change our spending tactic, which I would be all up for. But then again, we have been a club that really spends wisely. That spends on players that we need, but we won't spend in excess. We won't spend in money that we don't have. Ultimately, I could look at that and say, you know what, it's not my money. I could be here and say, let's spend 200 million. It's not my money. Ultimately, I don't really care. But if it was my money, I wouldn't spend that kind of money. I'd basically do the same thing that Bayern is doing right now. I'd try and just get players for like 35, 40, maybe 45, 50 million. And even if the market changes, I mean, next season we're going to get a new TV deal anyway, so we will have a lot more money available to us. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how it goes. Instead of maybe buying bigger players, we might just pay more in wages. Who knows? But like I said, he is probably the player that I want the most out of all players that are on the list in general. Although he's probably, like I said, he's probably the player that I want the most. Although he's probably also the player that is the most unrealistic just because of his price. Then again, I didn't think we were going to get Renato Sanchez, and we did. So it looks like we might actually spend big money for young players with a lot of potential, with a lot of talent. So who knows, ladies and gentlemen? Who knows? But that was Kylian Mbappe, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you guys tomorrow for another player. And I think I might actually move away from Atakis and move on to something else for tomorrow. That's a hint. That's all I'm saying. But I'll see you guys until then, ladies and gentlemen. Peace out and have a nice day.